Welcome to another episode of Advertising Alpha. Today we have Thomas Phillips, who's an 18-year SEO veteran and founder of D2C SEO Agency, where he's helped generate over 78 million in organic search revenue for e-commerce brands and D2C brands. He's known for blending sharp strategy with zero fluff. He specializes in ROI-driven SEO, digital PR, and turning underperforming websites into revenue engines. He's also the creator of SEO Revenue Intelligence Dashboard in partnership with Triple Whale, which is awesome. Definitely want to talk to you about that. And he's a leader in helping brands adopt to the future of AI, which is kind of a big topic of today. Yeah, with that, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Hal. Yeah, appreciate the invite. Great to be here.
Awesome. So we can hop right into questions. First question is very topical. How are large language models like ChatGPT and Google Gemini changing the SEO landscape?
Yeah, so we see this a lot with clients where they come in and they go, "Oh, we've got a great blog. We got 100 blog articles written." I'm like, "Okay, what wrote it or who wrote it maybe?" And it's like, "Oh, it's just straight out of ChatGPT." And I'm like, "Okay, all right." But the trouble with that is that it's like mass generated average content, right? And that's like the last thing that Google wants to see in terms of like all the updates with EEAT. So like the expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness is a huge part of the algorithm. So if you just have like basic bitch content, so to speak, Google's like, how are you an authority in this particular topic that you say you're an authority in? So it's such like bland, fluffed up content that it's just like littering the internet now at this point. So I think that's a really big thing of what has changed lately, of like all these AI tools that people are just installing via Shopify, clicking, create me a blog post, etc., etc. So really, you've really got to stand out with that like brand equity in terms of having like very well written pieces of content that people are actually going to read, but then it also ranks extremely well in search engines. So really having like that expert create that content as opposed to just a straight output of ChatGPT is insanely important. From that side, but I definitely see that big shift. And in terms of other big shifts with things, I mean, obviously, a lot more people are using the likes of ChatGPT now, as opposed to going directly to Google to search for question-based searches is the first thing that we're starting to see from an SEO point of view that's starting to get less clicks in terms of like if you're creating content that is a question and answer based side of things. So as more and more people start to search inside of ChatGPT, obviously it's then going to be serving up more content, and then people are going to be either reading the content and or clicking across to a website. So that is a very, very big focus of ours, is trying to rank inside of ChatGPT and other large language models and then come up as high as possible to get as many clicks as possible. And as I was saying to you, Hal, the other day, like some of our clients are getting like thousands in revenue per month from ChatGPT directly. And the conversion rate on that is like 30% and beyond, which is nuts. So big focus in terms of what is changing.
Yeah, just on the ranking side of things. So at least on the paid search strategy, like we're concerned about that because I think it's upended how, you can bid on search queries through paid search, right? Like typically you have, a couple of different search ads that show up, and that, whatever you search is just that feed that shows up on, like, let's say Google, for example. Now above that is just a Google Gemini response, right? You search something, you get the AI response first, and then you get all the different links, websites, as well as paid ads kind of interspersed in that. And we're obviously concerned because now I do it myself. I know lots of people are doing it. Whatever shows up in that Gemini response is basically where they click and look first. So for paid search, we're trying to figure that out, really what that looks like. But how does that work in terms of like ranking with large language models? Like what's the strategy behind that? What do you have to change? And I guess another piece of this is, does traditional SEO help with ranking within large language models, or is it completely different? Does it take that into consideration?
Yeah. So in terms of like the whole like, well, it used to be called like knowledge panels like 4 or so years ago. Now it's kind of moved into like AI overviews, and now it's just like full blown Gemini whole output with a whole bunch of links and stuff. So we've had it for quite a long time in terms of like from an SEO point of view, having to try and adapt to that, because it's like stealing the clicks. Unless, as you said, unless you're first or sometimes second or third, you're not necessarily going to get pulled into that top section and be listed. So it's even more important for us to be ranking in the top 3, especially first position for our own brands and for our clients, so that we can be inside of those sections as well as. But sometimes it's actually pulling in sections of content further down. You could be ranked 6th on Google as an example, but if Google can crawl your website very, very easily, it's like a low amount of code in terms of like getting straight to your content. And you have like, you might have seen this in some blogs at the top. It's like, okay, here's the key overview. If you were just to read this bit, you'd basically understand the whole thing. So it's basically like grabbing those helpful and useful sections and like mushing it in with other pieces of text up at the top, and then it's linking to that. So that's one area of things. In terms of like ranking on ChatGPT for like the curated lists and stuff like that, as I said, a huge focus. So there's a bunch of different ways that I found that it's doing it. So part of the time, it's literally just going directly to Bing or another search engine and just grabbing the top 5, just grabbing that and then putting it in your list. So I'm talking about like, let's say you were searching best leather wallet as an example, right? I'm using a product search here. It's literally just grabbing that and displaying it. Here you go. I've done a web search. Here's the information. Some of the time, it's actually pulling directly from high authority websites. And sometimes you can see this on the right-hand side that it's going through, where it comes up underneath and you can click it and then you can see all of the different websites that it's pulled the information from. And that is basically, it's pulling from those authoritative websites that it deems are authoritative, right? It's grabbing that information, the unique selling point of the product, combining that all together, and then building a curated list based off of your actual question. So if you were like, I wanted a crocodile wallet that's red, right? Then it's going to really like go into detail and try and find those ones where they're also mentioning that, and obviously build that curated list for you. So for that, SEO plays a massive role because we're doing digital PR, we're doing link building already. So being featured and having brands featured on those big publications that are authoritative, that ChatGPT deems as, then we increase the chances that ChatGPT pulls in that information and then displays it on the site, inside of the chat. So big focus, and it's great because it's a continuation of what we're already doing. And then the third piece of it is it's pulling from the database it already has and it's already learned from. So if you ask ChatGPT, like, when were you last updated? I believe it's June 2024 was the last big update. So if it's pulling from its database, it only has information up to that point. So what we're basically doing with content on our brands and our clients' sites is building out a lot more blog articles and to basically be the topical authority in that specific niche, right? So that when ChatGPT does update, it then grabs all that new information, goes, these guys are now the expert for it. Because if it's pulling from those pages and those bits of information, we want it to be there. Like, imagine if you had a site that had 200 pages that were talking about the whole topic in its entirety versus just an e-commerce store with 5 products in a collection page. ChatGPT is way more likely to grab content from here and say that you're the expert because you have all the articles and deep knowledge on that particular topic.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting. It does seem like traditional SEO is still playing a big part in influencing how these models are referencing it. It's not like it's starting off from zero in some other place and you really have to work the language model. It's like it's kind of two different things you need to be working on.
Yeah, it has to get its data from somewhere. So we want to feed it as much as possible and as easy as possible.
Yeah. Makes sense. Awesome. Well, next question I have for you, which I guess changing gears a little bit. Why do so many SEO agencies struggle to show impact or, basically attribution from SEO efforts? This is a big issue I see talking to some brands where it's like they don't want to go work with the SEO agency because they just don't really know what the return is or how to quantify it or how long it's going to take. Yeah, what's going on here? And I'm saying this too from a paid ads perspective where it's pretty obvious and linear and immediate because we turn on ads, we see revenue, and then it's like, okay, great, we're doing our job.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, basically all we've had to rely on over the years is Google Analytics, like GA4. Like universal Google Analytics was pretty decent. Like we could definitely rely on that data a lot. And then GA4 came in and, all of these like iOS updates where you have to like accept the cookies and all this other crap. And all of a sudden now the GA4 data is just like wildly inaccurate. We were talking the other day and I was saying that we basically pulled all the data from our clients' Shopify stores and their GA4. And some of them were 40% over in terms of reporting on Google Analytics. Some were 40% under and some were pretty much fine. But it was like wild, the difference. So we knew that we had to do something about it. So we partnered with Triple Whale and their co-founders to basically build the first SEO dashboard that actually has proper attribution and data. So now finally we're able to roll that out and have accurate data in terms of like the actual amount of revenue that's been generated, right? The amount of traffic that's come in. Rosie, as we were talking about, return on SEO investment, similar to ROAS, the CPA, the MER, and now we can even see like all the different URLs. Similar to what you could see in GA, but now we're able to like tie information in terms of like, okay, on Ahrefs, we can see you've jumped from 10th to 1st. That has been a big jump there. And the client's like, but what does that actually mean in terms of revenue? So now we're able to see in that time frame on Triple Whale, that page has increased in traffic by 50%, increased in revenue by 40%. Here's the new conversion rate for it, etc. So we're now able to tie the data together, which we hadn't been able to do before. And now we have things like the touch points, where SEO sits in the funnel and the percentage of people who are literally just Googling the brand and then purchasing. And that's been very, very eye-opening because we were always of the mindset of if a brand is spending a lot on, for example, Meta, then someone is clicking on the ad on Meta, they look at the page and they go, let me Google this just to verify or make sure or whatever. Then they go to Google and then look at it. But what we've actually found is like that's less than 10% of most of the brands that we're working with, which is like, all right, that's interesting. So all these like small data points that we've been able to now show to our clients, they've just been like, oh shit, that's rocked my world in terms of the perception of it. So it's been amazing to see like even the cost to acquire a customer, and we have the comparison of paid versus organic search, and like organic search is so low. So it's been extremely eye-opening overall. So I'm very, very happy that we've finally got access to reliable data.
Yeah, that's just awesome to hear. For this, new product, this new report or reporting dashboard, is this something that you offer outside of your existing clients? Is there something where if someone was really interested in trying this out or taking a look or potentially recommending that their existing SEO agency uses it, is that something you guys offer outside of what you're doing right now?
Yeah, great question. So we've been toying with the idea of, looking to offer this. Right now it's exclusively for our clients. But absolutely, we're using it as a tool to really like shine a light on, for example, what someone's existing SEO agency might be doing, or maybe they haven't done any SEO, but they want to understand the data right now. So that only really works right now if they have Triple Whale installed, right? And they're paying for the data. Then we're able to then go in, get access to it, and then replicate that dashboard out directly to them. So in that sense, yes, we can. But if they are not using Triple Whale at all right now, come back to us in a month's time. We may be able to, install that in and then get direct access to that. But yeah, in short,
Got it.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, it's got to be something that, I mean, it obviously is probably making your job a lot easier in terms of quantifying, justifying what you're doing. I mean, the wild thing that you mentioned too is, the 10% of people who see ads on Meta actually going and Googling or clicking on a Google ad afterwards. Like I'll be honest with you, we assume that's much higher rate. And to hear that stat is really interesting to me. And it's crazy that you
Yeah.
can see that now through this.
Yeah, that was a real big shocker. And the other thing as well was we were under the perception that Klaviyo would be really like trying to steal and take a lot of sales, so to speak. But again, it's a lot further down. So there's such a high percentage. On average, from what we've seen, it's around 70% of literally Google search purchase, and that's the only touch point, which has been very, very eye opening. I guess it kind of makes sense because we are only focusing on transactional and commercial intent keywords. So if people are searching for those, then obviously they're literally going to come straight in. If they like the website, they like the product, and then obviously they purchase from there. So
Yeah, they're a high intent group. It's probably that like 2 to 4% that's ready to buy super high intent. Yeah.
yeah, that's what we want to scoop up and see. But it's also another thing that's been very, very eye opening is to actually carve out the conversion rate specifically for organic search. So what we found is it's literally like 2 to 3x what it is of like paid, as an example. So
Yeah.
it's been very, very interesting. One of our clients is around 13% conversion rate from search overall, organic search, which is like, all right, that's really good to see.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
healthy.
I would say paid ads, I mean, we're expecting 2 to 4%. Meta is usually a bit lower at 2%, and then the
Yeah.
average is improved by Google. But Google, I mean, it really ranges honestly based on the keywords you're bidding on and types of campaigns. I would say you're expecting that to be between 5 and 10%, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And obviously, the CRO aspect comes into play with things,
Yeah, yeah,
the client's website and how well it converts in the first place, obviously huge number difference.
for sure. Yeah. Awesome. Well, actually, just kind of speaking to D2C brands specifically, what makes this strategy around SEO for D2C different compared to like, let's say SaaS or like a service-based business or maybe B2B? Like, what are you really trying to do for D2C SEO that's distinctly different?
Yeah, yeah. So really focusing on that commercial and transactional intent keyword, because as you said, like it's like scooping up those percentage of people who are ready to buy, like credit card in hand, so to speak. So versus like SaaS would be more on the side of like informational. So we would lean much more heavily into really covering the topic in its entirety, or trying to build how-to guides or really like use cases on how you could use it, like problem and solution based kind of content, and then positioning the SaaS product as the solution to that. So more content marketing, less like direct, like, hey, if you want to buy, here's the product, So, but with D2C, I just absolutely love it because it's just like, yeah, we can see 10,000 people a month are searching for red wallets. All right, if we rank first, we can get around 40% of the clicks. That equals this much on their conversion rate and their average order value. So the math is simple. It's like, that's a no-brainer for us to invest in. And then we're even diving in as far as like, okay, how much power does the website have right now? And what do the competitors have? What is that gap? And how much is it going to cost for us to get there? And then how many links does that page have compared to the competitors as well? So really in our like deep dive SEO audit is really where we're going into like a huge amount of detail, trying to work out what that gap is and how we can fill it as quickly as possible to get the quickest ROI at the end of the day.
Thomas, it
Awesome.
was great having you here. I mean, this is super helpful. I think the questions and your answers around AI and how that's affecting SEO is just a super relevant right now. I think a lot of people are trying to figure this out. So it's great to hear your thoughts on this as well as like how you're kind of pivoting around this.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Hal. Always good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Awesome. Well, thanks for being on and yeah, we'll chat soon at some point.
Thank you.